Hey everybody, I want to share a metaphor with you, and this metaphor has been a bit of a game changer, not only in my practice, but I really feel like in my life as well. So in this metaphor, imagine that you're placed in a field and you're wearing a blindfold and you're given a little bag of tools. So just kind of stay with me here. And you're told that your only job is just to run around this field blindfolded and live your life. So you start running around and sooner or later you fall into a big hole. And one of the first things that you might do when you're in that hole is you would try to figure out, all right, how did I get here? How did I get in this hole? And you might tell yourself, well, when I was up on the flat ground, I went this way or this way, and then all of a sudden I looked over here, but I found myself in this hole. And that might even be true. And you may be able to think through that if I would have gone this other way or whatever would have happened, that I might not be in this hole. But for the sake of this metaphor, guess what? You would have fallen in another hole because the field was full of holes. And if we even took a second there, you can kind of almost look at, sometimes I feel like in life, we're going around blindfolded and we're going to fall in holes. Those are the problems that we're going to run into because we're all going to run into problems. That's just kind of the way that things work. And that's okay, because if we're trying to figure out how we got in that hole, it's really not going to help us get out of the hole. Sure, it might be nice to kind of think through that for a second, but when we really think about it, we're in the hole. We fell in the hole, so we're there. So now what do we do? How do we get out of this hole? So one of the first things that we'll do is we'll think, okay, I got this bag of tools. So I'm going to reach into this bag of tools, and lo and behold, you have a shovel. And you know how to work a shovel. So you start digging and you start just dutifully digging. And pretty soon you notice that you are not out of this hole. So what do? You think, man, I'm a hard worker and I've got this tool. I can do this. I'm going to dig a little bit harder. I'm going to dig a little faster. I'm going to take bigger shovelfuls of dirt. I'm going to just keep going. Maybe it's more of something, or it's try to do it a little differently, or I'm going to do this a little bit better. And so more, different, and better. But actually none of this really makes a big difference, because guess what? Digging, as you might have guessed, is not your way out of the hole. It only makes the hole bigger. So pretty soon you're in this ginormous hole. I mean, the hole is just, it's cavernous. So there's going to be times you're going to think, okay, all right, I'm going to not keep digging because I'm realizing that maybe isn't working for me, but you're still in the hole. And in this metaphor, this is what it feels like to have fill in the blank. This is what your anxiety may feel like. This is what your depression may feel like. This is what your addiction may feel like. This is what your frustration, whether it's in a marriage or as a parent or in your career, this is what that feels like. It just becomes bigger and bigger, and it often becomes the central focus of your life. And we may have several of these holes that we have in our life. And so the problem is you feel like, okay, the harder I work, the more I feel like that this isn't working, that I'm not able to get out of this hole. And so here's the big thing about this metaphor is this is not to say that there's no way out of the hole, but it's to say that maybe the tool that you're working with isn't the right tool for this situation, that the harder you go back to work with that shovel, the more you dig, the faster you dig, the deeper shovelfuls of dirt that you take out, that actually isn't the solution. So no matter how hard you work with that tool in that situation, it isn't going to work. And actually, it may even make things feel like they're worse. So, that sense you have at times where you feel stuck and you feel like sometimes we feel a little bit hopeless. Well, that's because in this situation, you are literally stuck, and the system in which you are working with the tools that you're using, it really may feel like, and it might even be true, that there isn't a way out. So the things that you've been trying to do in this situation aren't working. And here's the thing, they're amazing tools. A shovel is a fantastic tool when you're trying to dig a hole, but when you're trying to get out of a hole, that's not the solution. So the problem isn't the tool itself, it's the situation that you find yourself, that you're actually trying to use this tool. So as a therapist, a lot of times people come in and they want this gold-plated, amazing shovel from me, this giant steam shovel from me. And here's the challenge, is that I can't give it to them. And even if I did, the truth is they wouldn't use it. They would still want to do whatever they could to just continue to dig with it. And even if I hand them a ladder at times, and people may do that, they might say, hey, have you thought about this? If you're still so attached to using that same tool that I just have to work harder and I got to double down and just dig a little bit harder, then you're going to take anything into that hole and you're going to try to dig with it. And let's face it, if somebody handed you a ladder, you're going to try to dig your way out of the hole with the ladder, and ladders make really crummy shovels. So what I love about this metaphor is that if you needed to dig, you've got a perfectly good tool. You've got one of the best. It's a shovel, for Pete's sake. But you need to make room for something else in your hands. You need to be open to the fact that there are other tools out there. If you feel continually frustrated, and even you feel like, well, I got the shovel and I'm a good worker, so then it must be everybody else's fault. But you continue to find yourself in that hole, whatever that situation is, feeling frustrated in your marriage or feeling like you're continuing to turn towards some addictive behavior as a coping mechanism, then I really want you to take a look at, do you have the right tool? And if this is the case, and I know it can feel very scary to let go of the shovel, because you're going to feel at times like that, but this is my tool. And so if I let go of this shovel, then I'm going to be in this hole forever. So that is such a scary feeling that we go back to that tool. And I hope that you're getting the vibe on this entire metaphor, because let me give you some examples. There are people that I work with in a relationship where they feel like they need to keep control of a situation. If you find that you are one of these people that just at your core, you have such a hard time taking ownership or accountability of something, man, I did say that, but that was a pretty crummy thing for me to say. But my tool, my shovel in this situation is, I'm going to deny it. I didn't say that. I mean, you must have heard me wrong, but in your core, I think I said that. Then what you're doing is you just pick up your shovel. You're going to dig a few more holes and say, no, this time it's going to be different. This time I'm going to work a little bit harder with this shovel, and then things will be okay. And eventually, sometimes in our marriage, they are. A few days pass and things kind of go back to the way they were, but you still feel like you feel a little bit stuck, or you feel there's some tension there. Or in your parenting, it's the same thing. If you don't take accountability or ownership of something that you did and you want to project that back onto your kid, did you just pick up the shovel again? Do you have this desperate need to connect with your spouse or with your kid? But that feels really scary and that feels really vulnerable. And if I open myself up, if I take ownership or accountability of something, then all of a sudden, what are they going to think? Or all of a sudden, they're going to think that they can't trust anything I say. So let me go grab that shovel. Let me dig in a little bit deeper. And I'm not going to take ownership or accountability of something or apologize for something that I really knew that I did. I'm the dad. So that's picking up that shovel and continuing to dig. Another good example that I run into is I deal with a lot of people that struggle with impulsive issues, impulse control disorder, or compulsive behaviors, whether it's turned into food or pornography or shopping or video games or any of these things. Let me jump into that one with pornography, for example. That most of the people I'm working with have a nice spiritual, religious foundation or background. And so what they often do is they feel like when they turn to a compulsive behavior like pornography as a coping mechanism, then they really feel down. They beat themselves up. And so what do? They say, I gotta double down on my spirituality. I gotta pray harder. I gotta read my scriptures more. And so those are wonderful tools, but not in this particular scenario, because the more they do that, the more that they are actually making themselves feel worse, because they're saying, okay, if I can pray more and read my scriptures more and feel more righteous, then why do I keep turning to this impulsive behavior, the turning to pornography as a coping mechanism, or food or shopping or video games or any of those things? Because I'll tell you, in that scenario, it's not the right tool for that situation. Great tool, but not in that situation. So what is the tool? When I did a podcast episode on this recently, I got a flood of emails saying, okay, I get it. I like it. I'll put the shovel down, but what's the tool? So the tool is actually starting to really get in touch with who you are. It's starting to really recognize that, man, am I living the life I want to live? And I'm not going to try to go all motivational speaker on you here, but am I doing things because I think I'm supposed to? Am I caring about certain values because I think that's what I'm supposed to do to be a good person? What really matters to me? What are my values, as an example? Because if I'm really not living true to my core values as a human being, and those values, the things that are important to me, are important to me because of my experiences, all of the things that I've been through, my nature, my nurture, my birth order, my DNA, abandonment, rejection, people that have left me in my life, people that have died, jobs that I've had, that I've lost, people that have moved in and out of my life, accidents that have happened, health challenges, because that's my experience. I'm the only one that's gone through all of those things. So I'm going to have my own unique set of core values, things that are going to matter deeply to me. And I have to be taking action on those things. If not, then I'm going to feel like, okay, I know I'm supposed to do these things, but I don't really feel it. And if I don't really feel it, then I'm going to do it later, or I'm going to find other things to do. I'm going to turn to these compulsive behaviors. And then when I feel like that's the way I'm going, that's the way I'm living, then I'm going to have these moments where I feel like, okay, this isn't really me. So what do I got to do? I got to double down. I got to pick up that shovel. I got to start digging again. I have to go back to these things where I can just work harder and trying to do this thing that I don't necessarily really feel connected with, or I don't really have the parenting skills that I need, but I'm embarrassed or afraid, or it's too vulnerable to go seek help. And so I want you to take a look at your life right now. What are the biggest challenges that you're having, or the struggles that you have? And if you have to just start by admitting it to yourself, that's great. If you need to go get help, go get help. I'm a therapist, for Pete's sake. I mean, of course, I'm pro therapy. I think it will help. It will help you come to a realization of, are you living the life that you want to live? Because if you're not, I bet you're pretty good with a shovel. So identify those shovels in your life. And then when you find yourself going back to digging them, when you find yourself going back to the same pattern that has caused you to feel stuck in the first place, that's the moment to drop the shovel and recognize, I think there might be a better tool for this situation. And that's going to be scary. And you have to be bold. You have to be brave to do that. But man, use your own pain as the guide. Aren't you tired of feeling like you're stuck, or like you just are going to, I'll figure it out next week, or it's everybody else's fault? Man, that is digging and digging, and that's only going to get you deeper into this hole. So what's your shovel? What are the things that really are important to you? Can you set that shovel down? Can you drop it? Can you look for a different tool? And if you aren't sure what that tool is, go get help.